You know how India and China have this bittersweet love-hate kind of relationship, but in some level, we always are told, look at China. I mean, whether it's how clean it is or whether it's about the scale. Um, and so I'm really going to ask you because I know for a fact that you work at a fairly global level, including with your students and with your own little core group. So what's China doing? Because I know China has become quite conscious about why it's so important to rethink that whole green framework. Is it greenwashing or is it actually doing something? What's happening in China and what are they doing about jobs anyway?
I'll first answer the question about China's approach to a circular economy. In 2008, China passed a national law which was for promoting a circular economy. It was the first country to do so at a national level. Now, the way they want to do this is by establishing eco-industrial parks. Now, and eco-industrial parks, some of you may be familiar with the Kalundborg Eco-Industrial Park in Denmark. That was from 1970s. And what happens in an eco-industrial park is you have a number of companies or enterprises that work together, and the outputs of one, some of the waste outputs get used as inputs for the other. So it becomes a network in which the materials are reused, and so there is industrial symbiosis, and this reduces the net waste and could and has potentially a benefit not just to the cluster of companies engaged in this, but also to the cluster, to society, and the world at large. One can argue that a circular economy is nothing new, and that is true. So, if we see how waste is reused, let's understand the metrics first. So the metrics are, if cost is a metric, then we've had circular economies forever. The issue is our metrics are changing. So now you have metrics that relate to health, metrics that relate to pollution, you have metrics that relate to material reuse. So cost is easy to work with because everyone is interested in it. The other metrics are not visibly noticeable. China's approach to the circular economy has been the establishment of eco-industrial parks. I have some maps which I won't show, but since 2010 to 2015 and even now, there have been so many eco-industrial parks set up in China, but China's emphasis is more on pollution reduction. It is not necessarily about jobs, it is not necessarily about resource efficiency, it has more to do with industrial pollution. Europe, on the other hand, as we just heard, there have been natural eco-industrial parks, or I'd say organic eco-industrial parks like Kalundborg. Australia has a huge eco-industrial park in Kwinana. There are about maybe a couple of hundred companies there. But they're anchored, these industrial parks are anchored by few key industries. And then they are tied together with their input-output relationships. In Ulsan in Korea, they have about 700 companies that have gotten together, and they exchange outputs and are therefore very efficient. In Kawasaki in Japan, there's another huge eco-industrial park. But China's difference is that this is promoted by the government. So this can be a planned eco-industrial park. Now, planning of this nature in any other country would probably not be possible. In China it is because the high-level leaders are mandated, they are tasked with certain metrics and have to report these metrics and then get assessed on these metrics. I don't know what the punishment or the penalty for not meeting the metrics is, but it is reported that there are penalties. So China's approach as compared to Europe, for example, is one in which Europe has been looking at reducing consumption, increasing material efficiency, but China is looking at reducing pollution. In this, I'll also throw the US. We have one policy pretty much that was money talks. And so in 2000, surprisingly, in 2015, President Obama passed a bill on material efficiency, and in that, it was an executive order, he can't pass a bill, my bad. But in that executive order, he required the government to start taking material that had recycled content. And that led to the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, to institute a smart material consumption program in which what they are doing, and this could be useful here as well, is the EPA now is certifying certain service providers who will take back material and certify that they're using it responsibly. So that could be a nice model for countries that are trying to emulate other countries. And I know I'm straying off China, but China is also looking at, yeah, thank you. China is looking at similar approaches. So material efficiency in China is not yet at the level, the thought is not at the level that it is in the rest of the world. Now we come to the jobs issue in China. In China, recycling has always been a big job provider. There is a village, and I can't tell you the name of the village because I don't remember it, but it specializes in recycling Christmas lights. One item, and that's all they work on, and they recycle the materials from Christmas lights, I assume from the whole world, and I know how they are used in the US. It's almost half your lights go bad and you buy new lights every Christmas. So this is not a small scale issue. But there's so much work based on recycling. Recently, China has stopped taking back plastic, and this is very new. In fact, yesterday, the New York Times has an article on this. The consequences being felt in the US are pretty severe. So we used to send all our recycling to China, and people would work on it. They've stopped taking it back, and our municipalities are now trying to burn recycling material, which is a deadly problem because it'll erode confidence in the process from the public. But China has made an industry out of it, and that could be an example for many other countries.